for a segment that usually starts at 10:20. Good morning, Brian Cloonan.
Good morning. In my defence, I got caught at temporary traffic lights. They were moving a mobile home by crane. So I eventually did a U-turn. A U-turn's illegal?
Yes, they are, yeah.
Okay, I didn't. I did a...
3-pointer?
I did a U-turn. What the hell? So I think it was...
Hang on, was it technically a 3-pointer?
Oh, yes.
A 3-pointer is fine.
Oh, what's the difference?
A U-turn is where you do it all in one go.
Oh, no, I did a 3-point turn, definitely.
Yeah. The U-turn takes more skill.
I definitely did. I did. Can you do a 7-pointer?
Well, I suppose. Actually, I don't remember the rules for the driving test. I think there is a limit if you are etching ever so slightly.
Right.
But I think a 5-pointer or a 7-pointer may be permitted. I stand to be corrected. Anyway.
Would you like to be doing a test today?
Heaven, no way.
Can you imagine?
No.
Because I know when I was trying to teach my 3 how to drive, and I was worse than useless because everything is just instinct. I've no idea what I'm doing. You know, I was asked, why are you doing that? I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. You do it without even thinking. So the problem is your ingrained bad habits are also so hard to stop. But anyway.
All I heard is you're worse than useless. First off, Miriam in Clonaslee has a question, and actually we will come back to a general point in a moment about putting away the decorations. I know some people will already have done them, but you can save yourself a lot of hassle. And I need to show you pictures of these devices that my personal shopper found.
All right, great.
AKA Mrs.
Yes,
F.
yes, got that.
So Marion in Clonaslee says, just before Christmas...
And sorry, you know, in the fullness of time, your personal shopper for things like that will become your kids, because they're so much better at research, you know, online. I know you are obviously excellent, but they become so much better than you in the fullness of time.
And do they charge you for it?
Well, they certainly, you know, in the past got substantial contributions towards so much, you know, their education.
So they remember that.
They remember that. Yeah, sorry. When they get to a certain age, they remember it.
Anyway, Miriam in Clonaslee says, just before Christmas, we had to get a plumber in to do some work. And it was all a bit stressful just before Christmas.
Oh,
he did
well to get a plumber just before Christmas.
Anyway, he did a good job.
Great.
It was
I hear a but though.
Yeah, there is a but. It was all a bit rushed.
Okay.
He must have had some sort of silicone or caulk on his hands, because I can see it all over the windowsill. And is there anything that will remove it? This is white silicone on brown PVC, and it looks shocking.
Well, it's probably silicone or Tech 7 or one of those things, or Tech 7, generic Tech 7s, which means the only thing that really does it is silicone seal remover. So there are various different cleaners like crud cutter and sticky stuff remover and all that, but really if it is silicone, the only thing that does it is specifically silicone seal remover. And lots of people do it. It only comes in a very small container. It's very expensive. So if you had silicone on the glass, well then you'd use a Bohemian blade scraper to take the bulk of it off. You do not use a metal blade scraper on PVC. The problem is that you don't notice at the time, because it's a brown, or even if it's white, it doesn't matter. You don't notice that you're leaving little scratch marks until afterwards. So in a month's time, you suddenly realise all those scratch marks have filled in with dirt.
Right.
And you do notice it then. So what you do is you get some silicone seal remover and you use a plastic scraper. And of course, the best plastic scraper is the one you have in your wallet.
Like a credit card?
Correct. A loyalty card, credit card. So it's a hard, clean, rigid, straight edge, but it's plastic, so it doesn't scratch the PVC, and it's brilliant for taking off the bulk. And then just use a nylon pad to scratch off the other, to scrape off the rest of it, and then wipe it all off and wash it completely with whatever. Most of them say soap and water, some of them will say alcohol. So whatever the particular container you have. Now it's a small little bottle, so that's why physically you'd be trying to remove if there was a bulk of it. There's not in this case, it's only hand marks. But if you had a lot, so we would have questions in the past where people would say they changed the shower door. So they have a shower door up, and the shower door for whatever reason got damaged, was dated, was whatever, and they put up a new shower door. But of course the new shower door is not in exactly the same position because it's a different design, a different make, a different model. You can't go back and get the same one that was there 10 years ago because it doesn't exist. Everything changes. So they're then left where somebody had used a big dollop, which was the right thing to do, a good dollop of silicone the whole way down the wall where the shower door met the wall. And when you take it off, then you're left with this big dollop. But if you were to buy silicone seal remover sufficient to remove all that, you'd be buying 3 or 4 of them. And they're like small little bottles. They are bigger than a Tipex bottle, but they're not a lot bigger than a Tipex bottle. And it's expensive. It's, I don't know, 12, 15 euros, something like that. So what you would do in that case is, if it's on tiles, if you have a big dollop to take off, physically remove that on a hard surface that doesn't get marked with your Bohemian blade scraper, and then the residue that's left, use your silicone seal remover to remove that.
Jimmy says, I would love to use the credit card, but I can never get my hands on it. I think using an important bank card is probably not the smartest.
It's really an old loyalty card, something like that. They all tend to be around the place, in fairness. I wasn't suggesting, Jane, that you use your current
your
active...
only access to cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
Catherine in Athlone has a compost heap and has noticed something is burrowing into it from the ground, and she's concerned it could be a mouse or a rat. How can she get rid of?
It is a rat. So it's a rat. If it's burrowing underground, it's a rat. So compost heaps, you put your food waste into it, and of course it really attracts the rats. So if you have a plastic compost bin, it is recommended that you dig a hole and go well down with it. Some people even go to the trouble of putting a mesh down first. And you could put a mesh just on the ground and fold it up a little bit around the base of the compost heap. So really, in this case, it's either a trap or poison, and that's really it. But they are attracted to the food waste in the bin, and they will. Now, look, you could argue they'll eat the food waste and go off about their business, but you could argue leave them alone. But then, of course, they will continue to reproduce and produce more and more, and they can often eat a hole in the base of the compost bin and render it, unsightly at the least, or maybe, unusable at the worst. So I'd probably just go with the traps or the poison. It's outside. We never recommend using poison in a house, but this is outside, and there's always a misconception. So many people have opinions on, how you treat the poison, and so many people will get the wax blocks of poison, and they put them in a bag, and they take a hammer to them, and they break them up so that the rat doesn't bring it away with them. But the logic of bringing it away is that it brings it back to the nest,
and they all
have a big party, and you get rid of everything in one fell swoop. But the secret is not to do it. If you put down, so the rule of thumb would be 4 to 6 blocks of bait that you put down, and if you put them down today, and always put them in a space that birds and so on can't get at. The best thing is, I don't know, 10 or 12 euro will buy you a good bait box that only the rat will go into, and you can put it that he consumes it in there, or you can leave it that he brings it back. So if you had a dog, if you were worried about other animals getting at it, leave it that it's consumed in the bait box, that they cannot remove it. And the wax block will have a hole in it, and there's a bar that keeps the wax block in place. But the logic of the wax block, as I say, is that they bring it back and they all have a big party.
Wax block is hard to say, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah, it's such a hard word, just 2 words to put together. I was going to say something else. Or else the traps. That's it, really.
There is an article in the papers today about when you reach a certain age and you forget things, what you should do.
Well, go on.
Are you taking enough exercise?
No.
Are you too stressed?
Yes.
Are you socially isolated and awkward?
No. Definitely not.
Are you a bit simple?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
there's no change then. The next listener begins their text with, I am fed up
of...
I'll tell you after these.
Mr. Fix-It with a bed shed Kilbeggan. Quality, choice and value you can't beat. With over 80 beds, headboards and mattresses to suit all budgets. Find the bed shed on Facebook and Instagram.
The next listener says, I'm fed up.
A lot of that about at this time of the year, yes.
Yes, most definitely. And they're fed up in this case with drying clothes inside, because it's not like,
Yeah.
terribly effective unless. So if you have a tumble dryer, good. But she says, I've heard they're terribly expensive to run. She's also been told a dehumidifier might be the answer. But again, what sort of specification? And your help with this conundrum would be gratefully received from Anne.
Yeah. So obviously it's cheaper to buy a dehumidifier. And they work really well. I mean, one of the problems with drying clothes inside is you're putting in the moisture from the clothes is staying inside. So it can lead to all sorts of problems with mould and damp and so on because you're releasing all this moisture into the atmosphere. So there's a definite merit in picking a small room because the dehumidifier will work best in a small area. So, the utility room if you have one, or a very small room, and maybe even put up temporary lines, put up a couple of hooks and run a line from, over and back, over and back, over and back. So either use a clothes horse, but you can make your own. So they don't have to be very close together. They don't have to be, very wide apart. They can be maybe 4 inches apart. And then you could run 4 hooks in the wall, 4 hooks in the other wall, and run a line that you can just put up and take down. Now you can buy in.
You're optimistic if you think that's 4 inches. Keep going.
But and the dehumidifier works really well then. Now don't forget, you do get the same as you do inside. You get the dry, towels will be dry and hard, but that's fine. It exfoliates the skin, which is good for the skin, and then can be useful for other things. We often get calls where people have a leak or damp in a car or things like that. I think we had that last week. And a dehumidifier is a very useful thing for that. So it is a useful thing to have around, and it's certainly cheaper to run than an electric dryer.
Next, Kieran sends a picture of a kitchen chair that is a bit shook, I think you might say.
Yeah.
How would you describe this?
So it's like a pine chair, but now it looks from the picture, sometimes pictures can be very deceptive. It looks like there's white paint on it, but there may not be.
No, I think it's more that whatever stain or varnish was applied the first time has just worn in patches.
Okay, all right.
Anyway,
so,
he says, I'm inclined to think I shouldn't simply use a clear varnish. I want to paint it and I need a suggestion on undercoat.
Okay, so if he wants to maintain the timber look, then what you'd probably do is get a varnish with a little bit of colour in it. So give the whole thing a good sanding. Any marks on it, take it off. A light sanding. Now you're not getting out the sander and sanding the hell out of it. Just the lightest of light sandings. Get any marks off it. I would probably suggest because it's in such bad condition, put on a light coloured varnish first, and then 2 coats of a finish varnish. Sounds like a lot of work. It's not. Water-based varnish, really easy to use, quick drying. It really is very good. Now, if you're going to paint it, he used the word paint. So if you have a pine chair and you want to paint it cream or whatever colour you want to paint it, well, then I'd suggest that you use an oil-based, because it's just that little bit tougher, an oil-based undercoat primer and an oil-based finish. But get the undercoat primer tinted to the same shade as the finish. So you'll get away with 1 coat of primer and 1 coat of finish. And on the flat surfaces, after you've painted with a brush, just use a little 4-inch sponge roller to give you a really good finish. And last of all, you could consider, so if you take your chair, the bits that get worn, if you take a kitchen chair, it's the I suppose you call it the headrest, even though it's below the level of your head. So it's the handrail at the back, if you like, where you would grab the chair to pull it out from the table, and it's the seat. And they get the most amount of use. So what can work really well is to use the stain on that handrail and on the seat, and then paint everything else. And that can look really, really well. It completely transforms the chair, but makes it very, very practical, because obviously a cream paint, if it gets marked, will show up more than the wood stain would. But you're making a very modern looking, a very old chair look quite modern and looks really, really well. And you can do one chair with the varnish, with the whole thing. And if you're not happy with it, do one chair, do the same chair, and just paint over the varnish that you've done already and see how it looks.
Press the right button. Spotted something useful this week.
Did you?
I did. So here are little brackets that you can buy to wrap your Christmas lights around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're brilliant.
And if you go to the bother of folding them away properly now,
Correct.
you'll thank yourself in December.
100%. And the other thing, just always worth mentioning, a lot of people store their Christmas stuff in the attic. If you store your Christmas lights in the attic, make sure you take them down. They do tend to get a little bit damp up there, particularly if they're just like that, which is the way you're showing them, just, wrapped around the spool bracket, whatever you want to call it. So ideally, the ideal way of putting away Christmas lights and decorations is in a plastic container. If you're putting them up, never put them up in black bags, ever. Because every year we get people in the shop. Ever. Because every year we get people in the shop. They're doing a clean out in the attic.
Yeah.
And a black bag of Christmas decorations got thrown out because they thought it was a black bag of rubbish. So you can buy clear plastic bags. If you really want to use bags, use the clear plastic bags, because then at least you see what's in it. Go back to the lights. If you're putting lights in the attic, make sure that when you take them down from the attic, you leave them down in the heat to dry out, to make sure there's no moisture whatsoever. Because if you take
Before you switch them on?
Before you switch them on.
For how long?
2 or 3 days.
All right.
Yeah. So ideally the lights, just the electrics, you'd put, in the utility room or, somewhere that is definitely bone dry. And because very often what happens is people take down a set of lights from the attic, they plug it in and it just goes, bam, it stops working. And the problem is there was a little bit of moisture in there and that's it, the set of lights are gone and they can't understand, I put them away last year and they were working perfectly. But funny enough, moisture and electricity don't go well together. So that's the reason for that.
Here's an interesting suggestion from Hilda. If you want rat poison that won't harm cats or dogs, you can mix baking soda or baking powder into peanut butter and then freeze it in an ice cube for easier dosing.
Okay.
Worth a try.
Yeah, I don't know what works. Great.
What is the name of the paper that has the article on memory loss?
I can't remember.
I actually can't.
You can't. No, stop.
I will get it for you now because it was in one of the morning papers. Yes, indeed, the Irish Independent. The
Great.
Ask the Doctor section. And it's a good answer, fairly comprehensive given. A caller has a salt lamp and they're wondering if it's okay to plug in when it's damp.
That's gas. That's straight after the...
No, it's a salt lamp. Not a gas lamp.
Not gas lamp. So no is the simple answer. If there's any moisture there, moisture and electricity do not mix. Now, in fairness, with Christmas lights, nearly all, anything in the last 5 years, there's no such thing as a mains Christmas lights. They're plugged into the mains, but they use a transformer and they drop down to 12 volts, 20 volts, 30 volts. It's all low voltage. So it's not that dangerous. It just destroys the lights, but it's not that dangerous. But a salt lamp is full mains. It's 240 volts. And you do not want to have any damp and electricity coming together. That is dangerous. So definitely not.
Now, still to come on Midlands 103 this morning. You've heard how beef farmers in particular are unhappy with the Mercosur trade deal. What about grain? One farmer from County Laois has a lot to get off his chest in the next hour. And also, 6 months ago, the community of Kileshin in County Laois was saddened by the abrupt and untimely passing of Sharon Brennan. Sharon, unfortunately, took her own life. And her husband, Paul, has been sharing her story, but also trying to raise awareness of the groups and organisations that helped his family, his 2 sons in particular, 15 and 19, get through that awful, dark journey of the last 6 months. And he's determined to give back to them as well. That's all between now and 12.
Mr. Fix-It with the Bed Shed Kilbeggan. Need a new bed or mattress? Our helpful and experienced team will be only too happy to guide you to the best choice for you. Find the Bed Shed on Facebook and Instagram.
Regarding the Christmas lights and putting them away, if you can buy one of the brackets, well and good. But Jackie in Mullingar recommends a Pringles tub. Yeah. So you just wrap them around it, and then you've the option of adding cling film.
Yeah. Sometimes cling film. Well, wrap them in cling film. If it's really good and tight, once you make them airtight, great idea.
But if you don't, you risk letting the moisture in
and not being able to get out. So just make sure you completely wrap, make it airtight. Exactly.
It's like when people put the lights into a plastic bag, but they allow the bag then to fill up with water. Yeah. Whereas the secret is place the bag in such a way that it's upside down, the water drains.
Yeah. It's funny, I have those little things in the shop for wrapping lights around, and yet, funnily enough, I'm using the same set of lights for 10 years, and I took the cardboard and I rolled it. I took the cardboard box that the lights came in, and I actually rolled it basically into the shape of a Pringles tube, if you know what I mean. I took the cardboard box, rolled it into a cylinder, and have been wrapping the lights around the same box for the last 10, 15 years. And by the way, I have a set of lights at home which was made by Solace in Ireland. I want to say it's certainly over 60 years. And those satellites are 60 years old, at least, maybe 70. And it's gas, like the cable on them, like it looks like you could run a welder from the cable that's on them. You know, compared to nowadays, because the low voltage, they're so flimsy.
They don't build them like they used to.
No, it's gas. It's gas.
Joe recommends using the centre coil that comes with a roll of silage wrap as a makeshift rat bait station.
Yeah, so it's really any tube. So like traditionally it was always sewer pipe that was used, and people would often, go to a builder or whatever and look for a piece of sewer pipe, which is 4-inch sewer pipe, 4-inch long pipe. You put it in the middle. It's really important so if you buy a rat bait box, you will notice there's a hole at both sides. And some people wonder, should I block up that other hole? And the answer is no. The rat won't go in if he can't see light at the end, so that if something tries to attack him from one side, he can escape out the other side. So exactly that. But you can make your own. If you imagine if you had a piece of timber, a plank of timber, you could just lean it against the wall. So create a little lean-to against a wall that, you see, the birds won't go in there, but the rats will. So you're trying to make sure that, particularly if you're using grain bait, make sure it's not taken by the birds. And by putting it in there, you're making sure that you're keeping away from all other creatures.
Next listener is in the Ferban area with a 30th wedding anniversary coming up, hopefully. It says, we're going to have a celebration in the house.
Okay.
The only problem is the decking outside looks like a swamp. So my wife has suggested again and again that I tidy it up, jazz it up, and make it look better.
Yeah, it's hard to deal with decking this time of the year. I would say the first thing with decking is if it looks like a swamp, it's probably all just green algae. So make sure and spray it off. So all the algicides, all the biocides that kill algae need to be above 6 degrees on the day you're doing it, and you need a fine day. You don't want heavy rain immediately afterwards. But you should get that between, when is it? February sometime. So I would say to you, put on an algicide, leave it to work. In after a week, all the green algae will be dead, and then you can wash it off. So just go out on a wet day and either very gently power wash it, or just use a sweeping brush and a bucket of hot water and wash it all off. And then, if you want it to look very well, there's a thing called wet wood. Who makes that? Saddleton, I think, make it. I'm sure there's other brands of similar stuff. So that's the big problem normally with treating timber outside is it needs to be dry enough to absorb what you're putting on. But the wet wood one works regardless. The timber can be actually wet, and it really does work. We completely felt it wouldn't work. Felt it was nonsense, to be honest with you. So we got a piece of decking board and we stuck it in a bucket of water and then took it out and just shook it dry and brushed it on. And a month later, it still looked fine.
You tried to beat the man and you couldn't?
We tried to beat... we don't, and I'm sure a lot of places are like this, we don't recommend stuff if we don't believe it. And sometimes manufacturers will make claims that are not true. So we like to test stuff, and if we believe in it, we'll strongly recommend it. And if we don't believe in it, we just call it as is and say, no, I'm sorry, that's nonsense. I wouldn't recommend that at all. So wet wood, I think, yeah, and it's saddling, I'm fairly sure.
Okay. One other suggestion on wrapping the Christmas lights, just get a centre coil of tin foil.
Yeah. Now, they don't tend to be, like a lot of things, they don't tend to be as strong as they used to be honest.
True.
But it's really just anything, a bit of cardboard of any sort, a bit of anything just to wrap it around. But it's like all these things. We've customers saying that they get, a bit like those satellites we have, they get so many years out of the lights because they put them away properly, store them properly. Like the worst thing you do is put them in a black bag where they can get damaged. Put them in a box, something rigid that keeps them together. Put them somewhere dry, ideally. And the same thing goes for all the decorations. If you put them away properly, you'll get years. Same thing goes for you if you have an artificial Christmas tree. Put that away properly. If it's a good tree, you'll get 20 years out of it. Just by taking the time in putting it up, and more importantly, taking the time in taking it down and put it away safely.
Well, we're putting you back into storage until 10 next Wednesday. Brian, thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Next, David Hollywood takes you through the final hour.